you're not just doing this for yourself. You're doing this for people that you will never meet. And that just started something within my spirit to go ahead and start establishing a trust. Um, and I find that I don't have a fear of what's going to happen to me because I know what my parents and my grandparents, they were all landowners. So by me doing this trust and putting everything in order, the land ownership will continue into perpetuity, or at least that's the way I see it. Now, they can do whatever they want after I'm gone, but that's the way I see it. So I welcome each and every one of you. I'm happy to that Mid-South Progressive Agricultural Group can participate in this, because one of the things that was said to me after our workshop with Dr. Spade back in October is I had several requests. We need to hear more from Dr. Spade. So I'm just so happy to be a participant and also for our cooperative to be a participant. And that's all I have to say right now.
Thank you.
I'll probably have more later.
Absolutely. I know you will, Reverend. I'm almost certain you will. But thank you so much, Ms. Reverend. Thank you so very much. And yes, I agree with the comments from Ms. Carolyn and also from Ms. Reverend. This is a very, very important issue. And I do commend Dr. Spade and Ms. Vicky for all that they're doing in this area. So at this time, we're going to have Ms. Vicky, a voice in the wilderness, Roberts. Ms. Vicky, a voice in the wilderness, Roberts. She's the manager partner of Shelton Roberts Properties in Winona, Mississippi. So we're going to ask Ms. Vicky to unmute herself and you can come in your own way. Welcome, Ms. Vicky.
Well, thank you very, very much. Thank you. So happy. I'm just so excited to be here. And before I can even move forward, I have to give honor to where honor is due. And yesterday evening, I got a chance to participate in the conversation with Stacey Abrams, Congressman David Scott, and the Senator Cory Booker. And you never know who you are in the presence of. I'm a big Fannie Lou Hamer fan. I mean, you mentioned her name and I just lose everything because, again, that's where she was from our area. She was from the next county over, Webster County, but she got beaten in our hometown. But when I heard Carolyn's story last night, I'm like, I'm looking for a hero in Mississippi. I'm like, and God has blessed me with just knowing Carolyn Jones and what you guys are doing up in Northeast Mississippi with your alliance, your Mississippi Farmers Alliance there. I'm so honored. And Carolyn, we've been talking on the phone, but honey, I didn't know your story. So my goodness, I'm just so honored that you allowed me to have this platform. And there are some names I see on the they're participating on the conference call. And I feel bad to introduce Dr. Spade without you guys knowing a little bit about me. And I also see where Mr. Billy Lawton is online from out in Texas. I had the opportunity to meet him a few years back at one of the minority farmers conferences there. Well, anyway, my story is this. I'm from a 4th generation farm in Montgomery County. Both sides of my families were landowners from way out in the county, and the community is called Spring Hill, and they were known for being very self-sufficient, very much a self-sustained community, as there were many places in the United States other than Tulsa, Oklahoma. But I grew up knowing the importance of land, knowing the importance of hard work, but I kind of came in on the back end because I was the youngest, and so I wasn't out there picking cotton by the time the machinery had come around. But I still know what family meant, going out to my church out in Montgomery County every Sunday, and just knowing about the legacy of what land meant. And because, you were just self-sustained if you can't, if you could just take care of yourself. And so anyway, so I heard the stories about being self-sufficient. And I moved back home and got a chance to sit up under my father for 4 years before he transitioned. So he was telling me the stories about the land and knew just about our rich heritage that the land that my great grandfather that I'm currently living on in Montgomery County. I'm not going to say I'm totally living on it. I'm stewarding it. I'm stewarding the land. I was passed the baton when my parents both moved on, and one of the questions that my dad asked me was, Vicki, what do you plan on doing with the property? And I knew that he really wasn't talking about me. He was talking about future generations. And so I've been on a quest for quite a few years. Once we were able to go through the whole probate process, because my parents did leave some written documents of how we need to how we need to do with our property. So anyway, sorry about that. But as I was going through the process of, trying to figure out, after going through the legal process and going through, just going through the whole legal process, after that, I was trying to decide, what am I going to do with the property? And having a vision for it. And thank goodness my father shared the vision for me too, because a lot of times Black landowners, we have land, we don't even go back out there to visit the land. We don't know what is going on with the land. And sometimes we don't even know how the land is zoned. And once I started hearing things about Mississippi, we were the second largest state with African-American and women land ownership. I'm like, this is something that we really need to brag about. But the other hand, I started hearing stories about how less than 4% of landowners that even have forest land have forest management plans. And then when you start talking about estate plans, the numbers were so low, because they said less than 60% of landowners have estate plans. And I knew that what I had gone through, the time period that it took me to go through with my parents' estate, and we didn't have any heir property issues, but I still had to plan and prepare for that just in case, because you never know when you have to go back into court, and having your family genealogy, having your deeds, having your paperwork in front of you is something that will help you move forward with everything. So anyway, as I was going through my process, trying to figure out, how do I position this land? Because land, they're not making any more of that. How do I position it so that it can move forward generationally? And I started thinking about a Bible verse, I think in Matthew 25, I'm not sure exactly where it is, but he's talking about the different parables. And it did me so much. I had so much pride to say that, I'm from a fourth generation farm. But however, when I started looking at the Bible, when they started talking about the parable of the different talents, he gave one 2, and 1 5. And the one he gave 1, that's how I felt like that's where I was standing. I was like, I'm just so proud to say that, we had this land in our family for all these generations. But then I started looking at my community, and I started looking at Mississippi, because I had been blessed to have lived in other places. And we hear so many negative things about my state, but then I start hearing about women were the second largest, and then African Americans are the second largest landowners. I'm like, well, what can we do to turn this state around? And I start hearing about one of the reasons why we cannot move forward is because of heirs property. A lot of times developers come in, they want to develop, and when they go on their computers and they see the ETUL, ETUX or ETAL, they can't move forward. And sometimes when business decisions are made, you have 15 minutes so that they can make a decision on that. And looking at my hometown and just the part of Mississippi where I'm from, we have so much potential, but we are in double-digit persistent poverty numbers. When Vilsack was in office in the previous term, they had a group of terminology that they had for, I can think of the strike force communities. And when I started looking at those strike force communities, how many of those communities, those counties were in Mississippi? I'm like, oh my goodness, there's something that we need to do to be more proactive about it. And one of the things that was preventing Mississippi, what prevents us from moving forward sometimes, is heirs property. That means you cannot, when you don't have clear title, you cannot use that as collateral. So even for your family members, and now we're trying to encourage our younger generation to come back. We got some different things going on in Mississippi. Last week, I received from Revlin an email about the Mississippi medical marijuana and, industrialized hemp. We know that this product can grow in Mississippi because this is where it has been growing up at Ole Miss. But my thing is, when there are opportunities for us to be able to move forward, we need to have things in position so that we can be good stewards, because this land, it does not belong to us. You can go to the Bible, it says, I own the cattle and 1,000 hills, so this all belongs to God. So I'm trying to do the best thing I can do to be a good steward of the property, because I want to help my community. I want to help my town. And if you have property that's maybe zoned in a different way, commercial, restricted commercial property, you have an opportunity to help your towns and your communities so that Mississippi can move forward. I'm excited about Mississippi. I was just at Lowe's just a few minutes ago. A young lady said, "Where are you from?" I said, "Mississippi." She said, "Oh my goodness, Jackson." She said, "I'm such a Deion Sanders fan." She said, "Anything Deion Sanders does, I'm so excited." So, we need to be able to have our property in position so that we're able to sit at the table. Now that Vilsack is back in office, like he's going back in, we need to be able to have everything in place so that we can ask for things for our towns and our communities and for our families. So in my journey of trying to find someone to help me, I wasn't necessarily looking for someone to help me do estate planning. I was looking for someone that could help me with my vision that my father had shared with me, more like wealth preservation, in order for my land to be able to receive different funds, to be able to look at differently. And a lot of times, everybody I was talking to, nobody could understand the vision that I had. So I was really trying to position the property so that it can move forward generationally. And in my travels, I was talking to someone during this pandemic. This pandemic has been great for me. I don't know about you guys. It forced me to slow this machine down and get something out of these binders and kind of take care of some business. And I was introduced to Dr. Saacha Spade. Within the first few minutes, I knew she was the person that I needed to talk to, because she could understand my vision for trying to position the property and for the vision. So she was able to help me do that. And I think that's something that a lot of landowners, we just don't know. A lot of times we don't like to share our stories of the trials and tribulations we go through, especially when you're dealing with land and land that is jointly owned, because this is just a personal testimony on my part. Maybe I didn't have heirs property, but when you own property with anybody, even with a spouse or whatever, it's very difficult for everybody to be on the same page. And when even as a co-tenant, when the parents have left a will, it's still very hard to get people to understand. I've been going to a lot of agricultural meetings. I've been exposing myself to different opportunities. I can't blame people that might not love the land or are as interested in being a good steward as I am. So I just, think that everybody should really think about looking at this land from a different perspective. So anyway, I'm glad to introduce you to Dr. Saacha Spade, whom I met, and she's been able to help me to be a good steward with the vision that my parents left with me.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Vicki, for introducing our guest speaker and giving us some profound words and telling your story. And we encourage everyone to tell your story. Thank you, Ms. Vicki. And it's been a pleasure meeting you, Ms. Vicki, and Dr. Saacha, and everyone on the call. I'm familiar with everyone on the call. I know you all most are familiar with me. And thank you all for joining. At this time, without further delay, we're going to bring our guest speaker on, who is Dr. Saacha Spade. She's a doctor of metaphysics, thought-provoking speaker, wealth preservation expert. She's an educator, an entrepreneur, an author, and student of quantum physics and trust law. Come in your own way. Let's welcome Dr. Saacha Spade. We're doing virtual, so on your reaction button, let's give her a warm welcome by putting your clapper in the reaction button to welcome Dr. Saacha Spade. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Dr. Miles. I really appreciate all of you that are on this call. I first want to give honor to the Most High for allowing all of us to be here today, and also to Mrs. Carolyn Jones and Ms. Revelin and Ms. Vicki. You all have all been such phenomenal sisters to me. And I know that we'll have divine connections between us, and I look forward to allowing our relationship to continue to unfold. I'm very thankful to be able to be here and to speak to you all that are on this call. You know, if I could just be me, that would be great. You know, I have, you know, all of these different things, whatever, doctor of metaphysics, whatever, but, you know, none of that has anything to do with the message. And I don't like to focus on myself per se, because I'm just a messenger. I'm just here to give you what it is that God has laid on my heart to say, and not so much within my own understanding. I try not to lean to my own understanding, especially in matters that are dealing with spiritual war, because this is what we are dealing with right now, which is why I wanted to address stewardship, because we have to get back to basics and get back to truth. The Bible says, when you know the truth will make you free. You don't have an option in the matter. Once you get the truth, you have the ability to be free from all of the illusions and the lies and the things that, perceptions and perspectives that are not in alignment with the truth. And so the stewardship over what we have been given is very important. It's the basics. It's the bottom line, you know, and then we can build on top of that with the ways to be good stewards. But first, we have to come out of denial about who we are and about who God is. And, you know, hopefully everybody on this call believes in a higher power. However, whether you believe in it or not doesn't take away from the fact that there is one. And so we have to respect and honor our being and why we were put on this planet. And in order to do that, we have to get back to who we are in terms of creation. This system, since we've been here, we've been lied to, and we've been, you know, programmed to think of ourselves different than who we are. We have a severe case of identity theft and amnesia. We are, you know, dealing with day-to-day activities and growing up in, you know, situations that have influenced us to think of ourselves in different ways. And a lot of that is connected to how we eventually evolved into the perspective that we are owners and that we can own anything. And if you notice, when you're dealing with ownership, that is when chaos comes. That is when all of the negative aspects come and surface, is when we're thinking of ourselves as owning something here in God's creation. We don't have the ability to own anything. And so I wanted to deal with the 4 principles of stewardship so that, one, we can live in truth, and then we can turn around and implement that truth into our life. It doesn't matter what situation is going on right now in any of our lives. I'm not perfect, but I'm perfectly me. And so you all are not perfect, but you're perfectly you. And we're all striving to be better, I hope. I know for myself, I'm striving daily to become a better version of myself than I was the day before. And I want to be able to serve and deliver my purpose into this planet, so that when I have to give an account for my own purpose, because I'm steward over my being and everything that God has entrusted into my care, including my purpose, I want to be able to get that approval that I did all that I could do. Mississippi is very dear to my heart. The South is very dear to my heart, because it's a stronghold. You know, it's a serious stronghold in that area. And, you know, I'm not from the South. I was born and raised in California, but my family is from Oklahoma and Louisiana. And so I have the South in my blood. And maybe that's why I'm so passionate about helping people in the South. But the bottom line is that at this point, we are all we got. We are all we got. And God has given us each other so we can fit these pieces together, and we can figure out how we're going to set something in motion that's going to change the trajectory of those that are coming behind us, because we have been living so far beneath who it is that we truly are. And it is evident in the issues dealing with heirs properties, dealing with probate, dealing with, disputes among family members about things that we don't even own. It's not even ours. We're bickering and we're fighting and we're, turning on each other and betraying each other, and, just all type of chaos has manifested around this concept that something belongs to us, that it is ours. It all boils down to, us thinking that this piece of property or this asset or, this money or whatever it is mine, when it's not. None of it belongs to us. It was all given to us to richly enjoy, but it all belongs to the Most High. And so until we get back to that, we're going to continue to have issues, and we're going to continue to deal with the enemy and our ego separating us from our divine inheritance, because we have to get out of denial. We have to get out of denial. And so the Four Principles of Stewardship is very important in that matter. I also want to say right fast to the gentleman that was praying, Mr. Gunn. Thank you so much for your effort in trying to get us covered in prayer. I woke up this morning to a crashed phone and a crashed computer out the blue. Nothing, no shortage, nothing turned on. My phone went screen stripes on it. My computer has a memory, but it says no hard drive is attached. How that is possible, I don't know. And every time that, this is the second time that, when I've come to talk to landowners in Mississippi, that, the Prince of the Power of the Air has disrupted the technology. Last time we had technological issues with MISPAG. This time I had to run out to Walmart, virtually in tears. Miss Vicky had to talk me, down off the ledge, because I was very upset about, having prepared to talk to you all today and then to wake up and have nothing, which that was just confirmation to me how important this is. Because without that type of resistance, and I'm about to tear up, without that type of resistance, this ain't just a normal situation where we are discussing land ownership or, or a regular seminar. Again, I'm gonna say it and I'm gonna keep saying it. Mississippi is a stronghold. And if you have some property that has been entrusted to your care, and you are on this call, or if you're watching this via replay or whatever the case is, you have to understand that there are forces in motion that do not want that area liberated, because it is key to liberation for our people getting back to who we truly are. And I need for you to understand that nobody is here by happenstance or coincidence. This is all divinely ordered. I don't even do Zoom calls, and Miss Revelyn and Miss Vicky and Dr. Miles and Miss Carolyn, they pushing me out my comfort zone to do this. But this is not what I do at all. It hasn't been what I've done. I'm very comfortable with just working with who God sends my way. And now I understand that this message is so important. It's not about me. It's about the effects if we take heed to the information and we move forward to do the things even that we're uncomfortable with. This is not supposed to be a comfortable situation for any of us. All of us are uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable, y'all uncomfortable, this information is uncomfortable. It's something that our people have not received. It's something that, we have been, like I said, lied to and kept without this knowledge, so that we can stay low and so that others can continue to eat off of our future generations. And we can continue to pass debt forward to those coming behind us instead of passing a legacy, instead of passing generational wealth, instead of understanding that God has entrusted us with something priceless. And we have a duty and a responsibility to make sure that those that are coming behind us take advantage of it and understand what it is that they've been given, and also that we understand what it is that we've been given, and stop taking it so lightly and stop acting as if, you know, it belongs to us, and stop taking it for granted. The earth is the Lord and the fullness thereof, period. There is nothing else. That encompasses everything here in this reality. Now, I'm not talking about the world, because there is a difference between the world and the earth. I'm talking about the earth. I'm talking about where we dwell. I'm talking about what has been given to us, creation that God has set in motion for us to enjoy into perpetuity, and to take care of the inhabitants of it and those that dwell on it. The world, this is the system. The world is where the government and man-made laws dwell, and ego dwells, and competition dwells, and competitiveness, and chaos, and looking to something outside of us to rule over us, instead of looking to activate God within, because we are all one with God. God dwells within us. This is the temple where God dwells, and we are all connected to the Most High. And so instead of activating and walking in our dominion and authority and being good stewards over what God has given us, we have turned around and allowed our egos to tell us that we can own something, tell our egos to be focused on fighting each other over in majoring in minors, instead of coming together and understanding that we have a duty and a responsibility to the children that we'll never meet, and they will never inherit and get what it is that has been set in motion, and we will never get our divine inheritance if we keep acting like something other than who we truly are. And so the first principle of stewardship is the principle of ownership. Again, the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. Okay, that encompasses everything. God owns all. And so stewardship is a commitment to oneself, commit oneself and one's possessions to God's service, recognizing that we don't own anything. We don't have the right of control over our properties or ourselves. We've been given management responsibilities. So there's one landlord, there's one owner. I don't care if the bank says you own the house. I don't care if the Department of Motor Vehicles says that you own the car. I don't care if your creditor says that you own your business. I don't care if you have children. I don't care if you've got a little bit of money, a lot of money, no money. I don't care your clothes, nothing, not even your own soul belongs to you. Nothing belongs to us. Not anything. Our relationships, the people in our lives, the things that we've been given to care for and to manage, it all belongs to the Most High God. We can't create people. We are the portal. Women are the portal to allow a soul to come through. Men have contributed to that creation with what God has entrusted into their seed. But the souls come from God. We are not owners of anything. We can't own anything. And so with that being said, we have to understand that God has entrusted us with responsibilities. He's entrusted us with possessions. He's entrusted us with creation. What have we done with it? Why are we fighting each other over it? Why are there heirs property issues? Why are we having brothers and sisters at each other's neck over something that don't belong to nobody, didn't belong to their parents who passed it to them, didn't belong to where they were passed from, where they got it from? It all started from the top, and it has been transferring hands, control, control, control on down from the time that the Most High created it. And so we take this position that, you know, well, I'm the one out here working. I'm the one that's out here doing this. I'm the one that's working this land. I'm the one that's making this money. I'm the one that's doing this. But it is the Lord God that has given us the power to create wealth. We don't have the ability to do that without the source of all running through us. We are wrapped in this skin. We are spirit. We are spiritual beings. And so I know that you may not have came here for this. Maybe you wanted me to talk about estate planning. Maybe you wanted me to talk about trust, but I have to tell you the truth. We are spiritual beings here having a human experience, and we have to return to that from who we came from. And when we return, we have to give an account of what it is that we did with this experience and how we dealt with one another. And so that land that we have, the farming, the agriculture, all of those things that we have, that is not for us. That is for the greater good. That is for the greater good. We have a responsibility to deal with ourselves and to humble ourselves and to come back to the knowledge of the truth. We cannot own anything. And so that's the first issue, is understanding God owns all. And I'm going to keep saying it because it's not just a metaphor. It's not a cliche. It's the truth. God owns all. There's nothing that we can take from this reality with us when we are called back home. When that breath is withdrawn from and this returns to the dirt, what is it that we can take? What is it that we can take? What can we take? We can't even control our own soul. We have to have an account for even our own thoughts, our own perspectives, our words, our deeds. What do we own?
Nothing.
Nothing. We don't own anything. Nothing. We have no control over our being. It is God that has the control over this reality, no matter how crazy it looks. And the reason why it's so crazy is because we've been dealing in our ego. This is the land of ego, where Satan dwells. Satan dwells in our ego. Anytime we look at each other as one person being better than the other, me being more than you, you being less than me having more than you being poor, me being rich, you being broke, me having money, all of those things, all of that is based on ego. These black and white skin issues is ego. This politics that's going on is ego. You know, this is all by design to keep us focused on an illusion. An illusion. None of that is real. So when you walk outside or you go walk the property that you have inherited, you need to understand that God entrusted you with that. That's nothing to play with. It's not a joke. I don't care how effortlessly or how freely or how easy you got it. You got it at the expense of someone else. Someone had to transition out of here in order for you to get your hands on what it is that you were left, and you're fighting over it. How are you wasting your stewardship and not being a good steward? Because if there is a such thing as a good steward, there's also such thing as a bad steward. We are all stewards, whether we realize it or not. So it doesn't matter if you believe in stewardship. It doesn't matter if you understand that you're a steward. We are all stewards. So there's good stewards and there's bad stewards. Now, what are the good stewards doing? The good stewards are making sure that they use what they've been given for God's service. What does that mean? That doesn't mean in the church, because God ain't in the church. We are the temple of God. God is within. The building, that's where we congregate, but that ain't where God is. So how are we using what we've been given for God's service, for the greater good of all that is concerned? How is it beneficial to everyone? How is it moving us forward as a people? How have we taken this and turned it into a positive situation? How have we made this a profitable, productive situation? Ms. Vicky talked about the talents. You got the 1 talent, you got the 5 talents, you got the 10 talents. Now the ones that had the 5 and the 10, they put them to use. They made them profitable. They monetized what they were given, meaning they found a solution for flipping those talents and multiplying what they have been given. But that one was so afraid and so selfish and so egotistical, and instead of multiplying and adding to what he was given, he decided to hold on to it with selfishness because he didn't even want to lose. How are you afraid to lose something that don't even belong to you in the first place? It ain't yours. So if you understand that it's not yours, you take it out of the zone of being lost, because if God has entrusted it to you and you set it in motion, the Most High, you can't lose. Investing in the kingdom is investing in a system that will never crash. So while we taking our money trying to put it on Wall Street, taking our money trying to invest it in this and invest in that, investing into the kingdom, investing into the system of the Most High is investing into a system that will never crash. It guarantees a profitable ROI. If you do right, if you are faithful over few things, God will make you ruler over many. That does not mean just here, because we have somewhere to be after we leave here. So we have to understand that while we are here, in order to get to the greater good, in order to inherit the greater levels, we have to do right by what has been given in our hands right here, which is minimal stuff. We're not even doing right with minimum. We think 100 acres is a lot compared to all the acres on the earth, over what, 9 billion something acres? 100 acres is a fraction. But if you can't even do right by that, how can you expect to graduate into greater? How can you expect for those children that you will never meet to come into an honorable situation? You're putting them in danger. We are already in mental slavery here. We have so much mental slavery. We are recovering from physical slavery. They took us from physical slaves and turned us into debt slaves. So slavery ain't stopped just because we not out there on a plantation. Many of us are still on the plantation mentally. Many of us are still getting up every day, worried about what the white man is doing, worried about what the white man has to say, won't take authority. We're more fearful of the white man than we are of the Most High God, who has created us and has the ability to take this breath out of our body at any given moment. But instead of looking at the Most High for our direction and our instruction in who we move and live and have our being, we worried about what the white man is doing, what the white man has done, how the white man, whether the white man is going to approve of us taking control over what we've been given. We don't need permission from anybody because we've already been validated. We've already gotten permission from the Most High. We were put here. That's all the permission that we need. We were put on this earth for this time. That's all the permission that we need to move and advance. But instead of doing that, we get caught up in our ego. And then, you know, I'm just going to say this. The last Zoom call, lot of responses, a lot of people wanting to know more information, a lot of people wanting to talk to me, wanting to converse. I'm not here to talk. I'm here to make sure that we get it in motion. I'm not here to make nobody comfortable. I don't care if you don't know me from Jack's aunt. I have nothing to benefit off of being on this call other than doing what I was told to do, being obedient. I don't own the land. I don't have no entitlement to what you've inherited. I don't have no stake in anything that you have going on. I am here with pure intentions. And if you look at me any kind of way, that has nothing to do with me. If you don't respect what I'm saying, fine. That's fine. That has nothing to do with it being truth. So I'm going to continue to say what it is that I have to say, whether people embrace it or not. I'm here to meet nobody's approval. I am here to say, listen, this is where we are right now. This is what is going on. What are we going to do about it? What are we going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? I'm here playing my part. I'm making sure that I deliver what God is telling me to say. What are you going to do? Now the ball is in your court. It's in your court. So getting back to the basics of understanding stewardship, and that is from the religious organizations that we have, the churches, the leaders in the churches, the leaders of the households, the leaders in the families. We are all the Moseses of our family. If we weren't, we wouldn't be on this call. We have to make decisions for the greater good of all who are concerned. I'm not even going to go into the legal aspects. I'm not even talking about the legalities in the game of probate and court and all of those games, because they're games. They're games to keep us suppressed and low. They're games to keep our legacy, someone else eating off of our legacy, because we ain't got God common sense enough to work things out between each other. Now third parties have to step in. Now other people got to step in and try to regulate and determine what is best for what God has entrusted into us, into our hands. We got to have third parties step in, pay third parties to come in and tell us, well, you could do this. You could. How is that possible? How is that possible? Why are we in this place? Because it's a spiritual war over the South. We have inherited trauma. We have inherited fear. And now we're gonna have to break the back on that fear, because the only people that fear is hurting is ourselves and our legacy. Yeah, there's a lot going on in the world, but none of that has anything to do with our responsibility to our descendants. We are the ones that have been given dominion and authority in this realm to do what it is that God has. We all have a purpose here. Every single one of us has a purpose here. If your purpose is just making sure that that land that you've been entrusted is put to use and gets to the next generation, that purpose is not any less important than someone else whose purpose seems to be magnanimous. Everybody's purpose is important. And so understanding that first principle of ownership, that the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, and all that dwell within it, pushes you in a position to examine yourself and to say, what am I doing with what God has entrusted into my care? Am I being, if I had 2 more minutes on this planet and I had to go back to my maker, can I go with a clear conscience of knowing that I did right by everything that was put into my care, everything that I was entrusted with? Can we say that when we lay down and close our eyes tonight, if we don't open them back up? Can we say that those that we've left behind have a clear blueprint of what they need to do with what we've been entrusted with? Or have we just been sitting up spending our energy fighting with one another, majoring in minors, going back and forth, ego tripping over who got more land than who and what they doing and what being in everybody's business, and not getting our own house in order? The second principle of stewardship is responsibility. All things have been given to us to richly enjoy, but we are not to allow anything to master over us except for one master. What does that mean? That means that we are benefiting off of everything that God has set in motion. Everything that God has set in motion. But this reality has us focused on our rights. My Second Amendment right, my First Amendment right, my Fifth Amendment right. First of all, the Constitution, now I didn't want to go this way, but I am. That doesn't even apply to us. The Constitution wasn't drafted for African descendants or indigenous people. It wasn't drafted for us. It had nothing to do with us. We weren't even considered to be full people, full humans at that time. And it's still very much the same. So when we go to referencing a piece of paper, if a piece of paper can give you your rights, a piece of paper can take your rights away. I don't need no piece of paper telling me what my rights is. My rights are God-given. The right to be here. Obviously, I have the right to be here because God made sure that I'm here. Obviously, you have the right to be here because God made sure that you're here. Obviously, we have the right to protect ourselves. Self-preservation is the first rule of law. And obviously, if someone comes in to threaten your family, you don't need a constitutional right to defend your family. So we've been so focused on my rights, what's fair, what's not fair, being treated fair, Black Lives Matter. If you don't know your life matter by now, I don't know what to tell you. Your life mattered when you got here. Your life has mattered since that time. So we get caught up in all of these different things to validate our sense of being because we don't love ourselves enough. We don't understand our purpose. We're not looking at ourselves as the Most High miniature versions of God that are on this earth, that are here. God's revelation revealing into the earth his purpose and plan through us. But we have to be connected. We have to understand who we truly are. And when we're looking for, okay, I have the right to do this. The owner has the right. The owner is God. Stewards have responsibilities. So are we meeting our responsibilities? Are we taking care of each other? Are we taking care of what's been entrusted into our hands? What responsibilities are we meeting? Or are we just living in an illusion and being something other than who we truly are? Our responsibility is to manage everything that God has entrusted into our care. Every single thing. That's our responsibility. We're responsible for how we treat it. We're responsible for what we do with it. We're responsible for those coming behind us. We're responsible to be the best version that God created us to be. We're responsible for our soul. We're responsible for our thoughts. We're responsible for our words and our deeds towards one another. We're responsible for how we deal with the things that have been passed to us. We're responsible for that. But we don't have no right to nothing here. God owns all. We have one owner. So even with the controllers and the people that have been in control for generations and generations over this planet, and that have been keeping us at a low place, the only way that they can keep us at a low place, the only reason why they're allowed to do that is because we have lost touch with the truth. Because if we got back to understanding that we don't own anything, then guess what? We will also realize they don't own nothing either. So is our stewardship ability going to trump this illusion of ownership? The people that have been in control over this planet, the banking families, the people the Jews that are not Jews, that say they are Jews, which I won't go into that, but all of these different people, groups, and things like that have profited off of the backs of us. I wrote a book called Chosen Queen Moses. It's about the life of Harriet Tubman. And one of the things that was revealed to me was that in the Elmina which was a slave holding cell for slaves while the ships came. There was a Star of David over that, a Star of David. So we have all of these different perspectives, and we look to other people as being, you know, God's chosen and all of these different things, not understanding that there has been a collaborative effort into keeping us down. Not just one group, a collaboration, a systematic effort here to keep our people from waking up and stepping back into our greatness. A collaboration, a plan, a game plan, from the Queen of England to all of these, you know, all of these Portuguese, all of these different places have a stake in us staying down. They all have a stake in us staying down, because if we start walking in who we truly are, the game is going to change overnight. We don't need permission to do anything. We've already been given that. We've already been given permission to have dominion and authority over this realm. If you could find something in the Word of God that tells me that we are here to own, then I will end this message. From everything that I've gotten, we were stewards, we were managers, were entrusted, we are co-joint heirs, heirs with Christ. I didn't find anything that said that we own anything. Not nothing. So why is this being pushed on us so much? It's been pushed on us so much because it gets us disconnected from the true essence of this reality. Now, those controllers, they understand that they can't own anything. They understand that they can only control. And one of them even said the secret of wealth is not ownership, it is control. This whole reality is about control. It's not about right and wrong. That was a Rockefeller quote. This whole reality is not about right and wrong. That's why you see things that are wrong happening in the system and nothing's being done about it, because it's about control. It's say that, okay, thank you. It's about control. It's not about right and wrong. It's not about right and wrong. What is right for you could be wrong for me. What is right for me could be wrong for you. Right and wrong is a subjective position. Now, we all have an innate sense of right and wrong, a natural sense of right and wrong, but this reality that we're in is not about right and wrong. It's not about fairness. It's not about, you know, who's right, who's wrong, that's not right, this is not right. No. So if we look at it from a broader perspective of control, we can understand why things are playing out the way that they are playing out, because it's about keeping us in control. It's about keeping us in control. How can someone be on camera with his knee on someone's neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds? It's about control. How can this police officer shoot this individual in the back who was not a threat? It's about control. How can these people over here say who's got to get this vaccine, who's got to do this, what we got to do, what we got to do? What are all of these things about? What is all of this chaos about? It is about keeping humanity under control, because those that have been in control of this planet understand that their time is up. Satan knows that his time is up. And those that have been used to keep humanity down understand that they are on the clock here. And the only way that this game will change is if we take the position and say, hold on, I don't need you telling me what I need to do for me and mine anymore. I got this. I am one with God. Now I understand I have to be master over my reality. I am the captain of my ship. Okay, God has given me the authority and dominion to dwell in this realm. Why am I looking to you to tell me what I need to do for me and mine? I know directly from the word of God, as well as from just God putting me here for this purpose, that I am to be a good steward and to make sure that those that are behind me and those that are around me, that we understand we don't own anything. We need to take control over this situation and master our own affairs. Period. I don't need to go and vote for someone to rule over me. I don't need to do that. I don't need to go and tell this person, okay, you need to make decisions for me and my family. God has given us that ability to do, but we don't want to think. We want to pass that responsibility to someone else, have them to make the decisions for us, so we can kick back and not take responsibility over what we've been told and instructed to do. That is over with. You're either going to get right or you're going to get left. That's what it all boils down to. So what you've been entrusted with, if you don't take control, if you don't protect it, if you're looking and waiting for permission for someone to give you the okay to protect what it is that you've inherited, it's going to get taken from you. This economy is going to collapse. It is going to collapse. What have you done to protect you and your family? If you wake up tomorrow and you can't get no money out that ATM because you've been programmed not to have cash on you and to put everything in a digital format into someone else's institution, and you walk to that ATM tomorrow and you put that ATM card in and that bank is closed, and they've done it already before in the Great Depression. So it's not like it ain't been done before. We are dealing. Do you understand who we're dealing with here? We're dealing with spiritual wickedness in high places, rulers of darkness in high places. This is not a flesh and blood war here. This is about keeping humanity under control. If you don't take control, if you don't have no gold and silver in your house, how you gonna, the Federal Reserve notes are about to be no good. You logging onto the bank, you looking at Wells Fargo, Chase, Bank of America, seeing all these numbers on there, and you thinking that's your security. What you gonna do when you can't log on? What you gonna do when there's a line wrapped around the corner for people standing outside the bank, bamming on the window trying to get their money, and the controller's like, oh, well, you gotta wait till we figure this out. It's already happened once. This is not, this ain't conspiracy. Look back into what happened prior to the Federal Reserve getting put in motion when it was the money trust. It was the money trust. And then from the money trust, it went to the Federal Reserve, which is not federal, which made people come and surrender all of their precious metals, all of their gold and silver for pieces of paper. And they did it. It became illegal overnight for you to have gold. You had to submit that to the post office. So what does all of this have to do with stewardship? Those people did not see it coming, and they entrusted their faith and their trust into something outside of themselves. They weren't being good stewards over what God had given them. They were looking to someone else to tell them what it is that they needed to do. And as a result of that, they got robbed. So whatever it is that's been entrusted into your care, if you don't take the steps to manage and take it seriously, to manage and make sure that you and yours, that your legacy is secure, that you set the things in motion to make sure that if you lay down, those that's coming behind you are straight. If you don't do that, who is going to do it? Who are you expecting to do it for you? Who's going to do it for you? Nobody. Nobody. And so that second principle of responsibility, is understanding that everything's been given to us to enjoy, but we don't own nothing. We're not to allow anything to master us, not even our own egos. Check our ego. Check that part of us that want to hold grudges with our family member, want to be mad at such and such for what such and such did 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 2 years ago, yesterday. And understand that for the greater good. We all have issues. There's nobody here that is more righteous than the other. All of us have sinned and come short. We are allowing unforgiveness and ignorance and greed and egotistical mindsets to set us at odds with one another. And as a result, we have all kinds of land tied up. We have all kinds of assets tied up, none of which belong to us. We're putting everything that God has been entrusted to us into our hands, right into the hands of the enemy. We're giving it right back into the hands of the enemy because we can't even come to an agreement with one another about how we can move this forward profitably. The third principle of stewardship is accountability, okay? Accountability. We have to answer for the resources and the opportunities and the relationships and the things that we've been given access to. How are we going to account for those things? Have we done right by those things? No, we haven't. Because if we had, we wouldn't be on this call. We would be celebrating the fact that we have taken something that God entrusted to us and put it into a situation that's bulletproof. That's why I deal with trusts, because of accountability. Because when God asked me, what did you do to protect and to be a good steward over what I gave you? I can't sit up and say, okay, well, I was focused on my credit. I was focused on, getting debt. I was focused on, being in debt, getting the latest car, making sure that I spent money that I didn't have to impress people that don't even like me. But I actually, you know what? I actually looked and invested into securing this to make sure that no enemy could come from the outside and take it from my family, those that are good stewards in my family. I actually spent time helping them to learn how to become good stewards as I became a good steward. I actually set some things in motion to make sure that I kept it out of court, that I kept it out of probate, that I kept attorneys and judges from eating off of what it is that you entrusted into my hands by putting it in something that would secure it multi-generationally. I put it in something that was going to outlive me. I put it in something that was going to last as long as there was a descendant. I secured it. I made sure that I spent my energy and time taking seriously what you entrusted into my care. And then I moved it from being in a vulnerable state into something that was much more secure for myself as well as for my legacy. I set a legacy in motion. That's what I did, God, with what you gave me. A good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. That's the word. A good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. What good is it to leave your children an inheritance when you haven't set something in motion to make sure that they don't fight over it, when you fighting over it with your siblings? You haven't set a blueprint in motion for them to follow. So then they're going to inherit something as a beneficiary and then squander it, take a loan out against it, get a lien against it, borrow against it, sell it for nothing, sell their birthright for nothing, like Esau did. What did you do to protect what it is that God gave you, to make sure that those that came behind you actually knew what it is that they were supposed to do with it, so that they could train up the children that came behind them to make sure that that continued on, so that we can be self-sustained, self-sufficient. We got land that we could be growing food on, land that we can be using to make additional revenue to break the back off the poverty in Mississippi. All of these landowners, all of this wealth, we're kings and queens acting like slaves. We have all of this wealth at our disposal. Like Miss Vicky said, they ain't making no more dirt. All of this wealth at our disposal, sitting, idle, not being put to use, not growing food. It shouldn't matter if the store is shut down. We should have food of our own. It shouldn't matter what this person and that person is doing. We should have our own stuff so secure that we are not without. But instead of doing that, we're spending our time on frivolous issues and wasting away our wealth that we've been entrusted with. We're not putting it in the proper vehicles. Even after getting the information, I had people, want to talk to me, like I said before, about this and getting a trust and this, that, and the other. But they wouldn't move forward. I don't know for what reason, but it's in a dangerous situation right now. They'd rather have it in a dangerous situation than to put it into something that is going to be secure and following the lead of God in the spirit of truth. Because again, I have no stake or claim in helping people move forward other than doing what I was told to do. That's the only benefit that I get. Any Federal Reserve notes that come my way are minimal in compared to what it is that technically I should be receiving. So I'm making the sacrifice to make sure that people are good, and then they turn around and they can't even make the step because it's the programming. They have so much fear, and they have more fear about protecting what they've been given than they do about leaving it in a vulnerable state. Now, tomorrow, if they woke up and the courthouses were closed and the economy collapsed and the national debt, everyone who has a part of that national debt is everyone that is transacting with a social security number. And the national debt, they have put it on the citizens. So if the economy collapses, when the economy collapses, the national debt is going to be on the weight of the citizens. Divide that national debt up by the amount of citizens. That's how much each citizen is going to be responsible for. If you don't have that amount of liquid capital to satisfy your part of the national debt, then it moves to assets. What assets do you have that can satisfy your part of the national debt? Oh, all I have is these acres out here that my family left to me. Oh, okay. So you see, there's things in motion that we don't even understand or know because they're playing for keeps. We're just playing. So when you move your property into a bulletproof situation, which is an irrevocable trust set up correctly, you will still control it as a steward because you don't own it anyway. So why you thinking that you own something just because your name is on the title? We don't own anything. We don't own it anyway. Commerce is not set up for us to own anything. Putting it in a situation. So when God comes and says, when you have to be accountable for what you did, I did all that I could to protect and to take control over what you entrusted into my care and to make sure that those that came behind me did the same. I didn't leave it out here vulnerable to attack. I didn't leave it out here so someone could come and just take it from me. I didn't allow fear to keep me paralyzed to where I can't move forward and do right by what I've been entrusted with. No, I did. I took the step. Now, if you've taken the step and you have the right intention, again, because it belongs to God, God is going to make sure that you are okay. But this is what it all boils down to. Either we're going to trust God or we're not. Can't do both. Either you're going to trust God or you're not. So choose what you're going to do and then move accordingly. It doesn't matter that you don't understand all of the things having to do with, trust and things like that. We deal with things every day that we don't understand. We go into things every day. When we spend our money at McDonald's, do we sit there and ask them, oh, okay, what all are all the ingredients that go into the Big Mac? How did you make it? Where did the cheese and the lettuce and the tomatoes and pickles come from? I need to know. I want to see how this all was put together. What trucking company did you use to ship that meat here? How did you No, we spend our money, we buy it, we digest it because we trust more in McDonald's, even though we know it's no good for us. But when it comes to doing something that is good for us, that is good for our legacy, that is good for generations to come, we want to be scared, fearful. I don't know everything. I don't know what it is. I don't know her. I don't know. You don't have to do business with me. I've said it before. Find you somebody that is going to get you set up properly. It ain't about me. I'm just giving you the intel. I'm giving you the information so that you can take the steps forward and do what it is that you need to do. Whether you do business with me or not is of no consequence to me because I only do business with who God wants me to do business with. So rejection is always direction with me. If you don't want to do business with me, that's God telling me, you're not supposed to touch what they got going on. They're not ready. Let them go another direction. I look at it as a positive. I don't look at it as a negative. The only thing that I don't like, though, is when my time is wasted. If you have no intentions on moving forward, whether it's with me or with somebody, do not waste my time because there's a lot of people out here that want the help. And I don't have, it's just me. So I'm doing what I can. I'm doing right by my people. Sorry that I'm not white with blue eyes. I'm doing right by my people. And I'm going to make sure that my people get the information. And if my people take that information and match it up against the spirit of truth and let God deal with them on that information, they're going to be straight. I'm already paid. God takes care of me. The more I help people, the more he gives me to do. So it's not about you doing business with me. It's about you understanding you need to take responsibility and accountability over what you've been entrusted with and put it in a situation that's going to make sure that your descendants are straight and make sure you are straight and make sure all of those that are coming behind you are straight. You can't say you didn't get the information. You can't say you didn't have the information. You on this call, you got the information. If you offended, I apologize, but I don't apologize for the message. Get your house in order. Get your house in order. All of this chaos out here, we got to get our house in order. So that's accountability. What can you say that you've done when it's time for you to be accountable? What did you do? You froze, you paralyzed, you let your ego talk you out of it. You couldn't figure it out. You let all kind of excuses come up. Well, I ain't got the money to, you can't afford not to protect yourself. You can't afford not to protect yourself. It's not supposed to be a comfortable situation. It's not supposed to be a situation that is easy for you because you're setting in motion something that's going to outlive you for generations. So it's not about what it's going to cost you. It's about what it's going to save you. Is it going to save your legacy? Is it going to save your descendants' trauma? Is it going to save them being past issues? Is it going to save them being in court having to find people that are third parties to come in that they got to pay them with the money that you could have took and did it and prevented all of that, but now it's going to cost them more on the end because you didn't think enough of yourself and your legacy to take some Federal Reserve notes that you don't mind shopping with, spending on Christmas gifts. The best thing that you can do for your family is get them protected. That should be the Christmas gift right there. We straight. We are straight into perpetuity. We got this piece out the way. Now we need to maximize it and let God bless our situation and get all of this negative energy away from our family, all of this trauma, all of this generational curses. We need to get all of that away from us. The only way that we're going to do that is to set something in motion right now and do right by what God has given us, period. That's it. The last principle of stewardship is the principle of reward. Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord, because you will receive your inheritance. What we have right now is a fraction of our inheritance. It's a fraction. The greater reward is understanding that we have been approved, that we came to this planet to do what it is that we were put here to do. That is the reward, knowing that we can rest, knowing that we can be proud of the decisions. You know, all of these controlling families, how they got in control, it was one person in their family that said, I'm gonna make sure that my descendants that come behind me, I'm getting in control. I'm gonna make sure that everybody else maintains what I said. It took one person to make that decision. One person that thought enough and saw down the line far enough and had the vision to say, everybody that's coming from behind me, I'm gonna make sure that they don't inherit a negative reality. I'm gonna do my best to put something in motion that guarantees that they are secure as much as possible. It took one individual to make that decision. And look, their legacy is on and on and on and on for generations and generations. Their name will never die because they are continually receiving their reward through those that have come behind them, through their seed. They got, you know, they're able to be proud of the fact that they maximize their purpose, that even if they didn't understand it, that they had the faith in God to know, you got me this information. I've been praying for a solution. You brought me that solution. I'm not going to get cold feet now that you done brought me the solution. I'm going to move forward. That is the greatest honor that we could give to the Most High, is to living in truth. We can't lose when we live in truth. We can't lose. The reason we losing is because we out here living a lie. The reason we're getting our houses foreclosed on, our land foreclosed on, this taken, that taken, ending up here and this, is because we have this concept of ownership in our mind that is totally an illusion. We're not looking at things from stewardship, because if the good Lord blesses you with something to manage, he's gonna make sure that you keep it if you are a good steward by it. That's a principle. And if you lose it, greater is coming. More is coming for you to manage. But if you can't be faithful over the little bit and understand, I have to do something that is right by God first, and then everybody that I'm connected to. How are we going to work together for the greater good? How are we going to do this in a way that's going to bring honor to the Most High, that's going to bring honor to each other? That's the reward, coming from this reality, being entrusted into a greater reality with, you know, we don't know what we don't know. We don't know what awaits us after this reality. We don't know what we don't know. But if the Bible says that if you're faithful over a few things, I will make you ruler over many, that says to me that there's going to be a transition somewhere where we've proven ourselves, where we've proven that we were a good manager, where we've proven that we could do the job, so that we can get into a better situation. Even if it's not the next reality, it'll be in this life. Even in this life, when you deal with little bit and you do it right, you continually get more entrusted into your hands over time. As long as you're here, the more that you do right by, the more God gives you to manage. That's just even being in this reality. So understanding the principles of stewardship, the principle of ownership, the principle of responsibility, the principle of accountability, and the principle of reward, understanding that our purpose, being on this planet, having God's approval, is the ultimate reward, and first seeking the kingdom of God and everything else being added to it. Not putting the cart before the horse, not worrying about what we're going to do with something when we don't even have clear title on the land. Get the title straight. Get the property protected. Then you will have that pressure off of you, and you can open up and understand, and more can be given to you. But you're not going to get those forward ideas about how to maximize what you've been given until you get the first things first in order. Get those first things first, and then God will do the rest. So I'm done. I hope I said something that would help you all. I help myself. I speak to me first, and it comes to everybody as a result of that. So don't think that I'm pointing the finger. This is a message for all of us, including for myself, helping myself to be a better steward over what God has given to me as well, and doing right even by you all, my relationships, those that God is entrusting into my care, making sure that I do right by my purpose and get you the information and the tools and everything that you need to be successful on this journey. Once we stop living a lie, the rest of it is going to come to us effortlessly. So I thank you for your time. I appreciate you all for staying here and listening to me. And I hope that God was able to give you what it is that would help you to get some clarity, and so that you can move forward, because we have one opportunity to do this. We have descendants, we have people coming behind us, and we have ourselves. We got to break that spiritual war back, that stronghold. We got to break that back off of the South. The only way we're going to do it is to step up. We got to level up. We can't keep playing small here. We can't keep playing small here. So I thank you. I thank you. I thank you. I thank you. I love you all. And I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Miles.
Okay, Dr. Spade, thank you so much. Let's give her a reaction button, thumbs up, hand clap, hearts, all the above that's inside your reaction button, because this was phenomenal. This was phenomenal. So I see why all of your computer technology went out this morning. It was trying to hinder this message, this powerful message for all of us. So that's why your computer devices went out this morning. And Dr. Frank Coast, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, she said you must move forward. Your message is powerful. So that's why your everything went out this morning. But that was phenomenal. I was tearing up here just being a facilitator. I'm quite sure you all felt that. If you didn't feel that, then like the Baptist preacher say, go back and check yourself. You want to go back and check yourself, but that has truly blessed me. This has truly blessed me, and we this was so powerful. I took so many notes, and I like the fact that you did the 4 principles of ownership. That was phenomenal. The first was principle of ownership. The earth is the Lord and the fullness thereof. We own nothing. God owns it all. The principle of responsibility, manage everything in our care. Get right or get left. Take control. Be accountable. Accountability, being a good steward and do right with what God has blessed us with. And last, reward. God is our final reward, but you will receive your reward and be faithful over few and a ruler over many. I mean, this has truly blessed me. And this is why God wanted you to go this direction. I mean, you didn't talk. I mean, it was perfect. It all blended in together. I mean, it made perfect sense to me. So you continue to do what you're doing, Dr. Spade, because this is a divine purpose and a divine season for you, Dr. Spade. And I can say I've talked to you before on several occasions, and we will do business with you going forward. I promise you that, because this has put a stamp on everything. Me personally, as for this person, this is giving me a personal divine order to move. Okay. Whew, that was powerful. That was
Thank
powerful.
you
Thank
so
you, Dr.
much.
Spade. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much. I appreciate you all.
Awesome. Okay, wow. Now, at this time, I know that Dr. Spade covered the 4 principles of stewardship. I want you to go to the chat room. You can put your questions in the chat. We're going to open it up now, Ms. Jones, for question and answers. You can put your question in the chat, or you can unmute your mic and say, I have a question for Dr. Spade. So we're going to have about, oh, you finished early, Dr. Spade. You had 15 more minutes. You finished it early. So we're going to do about 30 minutes of Q&A. Let's talk. That's the name of the seminar, right, Ms. Jones? So let's talk. Farmer to farmer, let's talk. That's a seminar here. So if you have any questions in the chat, you got a lot of good feedback in the chat, Dr. Spade. It says awesome. And Vicky Rabbits she put www.poweroftrust.com, www.poweroftrust.com. And Ms. Revelin said blessed. Ms. Randall said awesome. And Howard Gunn says seriously a good word. That was truly a good word, a good word. Okay. All right. At this time, actually, you all have a question for Dr. Spade. Her time is special. Okay. I have some hands raised here. Okay. I'm going to ask the Mr. Fountain if you can unmute your mic, sir, and you can ask your question, Mr. Fountain, Herman Fountain. I see your hand raised. Thank you for raising your hand inside the Zoom call. Okay, yes. Go ahead, Mr. Herman.
Okay, yes. That lady really spoke. She talked my kind of language, doggone it. I want to compliment her on what she said. And I'm 80 years old and my mind messed up now, doggone it. When I supposed I had some sense when I was younger, I had the guts, but I didn't have the knowledge. Now I got the knowledge and can't remember a doggone thing. So I got a problem. So, but anyway, I want to compliment on her and all this, whatever all this, the statement she made about how, as a Black race and people, how we supposed to unite and stick together and be something. And what more can I say? I'm overwhelmed. So she said what I wish I could, which I wish I had the knowledge and the speech grammar to say what she said, and I admire her to the utmost. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Herman, for those comments. Thank you so much, Mr. Herman. Okay, Mr. McCain, you can unmute yourself. I think Mr. McCain had a question. You can unmute yourself, Mr. McCain, and ask your question.
Yes, ma'am. I happened to find out about this Zoom seminar from a cousin who lives in St. Louis, and there's an old African proverb that says, water finds its way. So I'm very grateful to be a part of this Zoom panel. There's an old adage that says, small minds talk about people, average minds talk about events, but great minds talk about ideas. So I'm forever grateful for the exchange of ideas here today. I kind of introduced myself a little bit earlier. I grew up in a place called Gary, Indiana, but my parents are out of Mississippi. So when I was a elementary school student, on the first day of class, they would ask students, where'd you go this summer? So Johnny would say, well, I went to the Grand Canyon, or Billy would say, I went to Disneyland. So when they would ask me, where'd you go this summer? And I said, Mississippi. And so I never didn't understand then, but I understand now that Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse and Donald Duck could never give me what Mississippi gave me every summer. So my heart is truly connected to Mississippi. I have a quick question, and this is to anyone that can help me understand where we are. Most of us understand that in November of 2020, this past election, the citizens of Mississippi passed the Initiative 65 for medical marijuana. And I'm questioning, and I did call the licensing department, nothing's on the books yet in reference to becoming a licensed farmer. But I just want to have insight, if you can give me insight on how the state of Mississippi is going to take care of, and I hate to say minority, because when it comes down to the world scale of things, we are of majority. As a matter of fact, I was watching the news today, and they said 40% of this population in this country itself is of color. So we're rapidly not becoming a minority, even in the United States. But I'm questioning, how is the state of Mississippi handling the licensing specifically? And particularly, are there any so-called minority set-asides for people, farmers of color? I always say, as the state of Mississippi tears down or takes down the Confederate flag, we hope that they would raise the opportunity of equal opportunity flag for people of color to grow medical marijuana. So can anyone give me any insight on that?
Yes, Mr. McCain, hi, and thank you so much for your question. My name is Carolyn Jones, and I'm the director of Mississippi Minority Farmers Alliance. And not only did Mississippi pass the Medical Marijuana Initiative 65, but they also passed the hemp law. So we're looking at two things now that are together, and we have come together as Black farming organizations to put together a task force. There's a lot of unknowns about the Medical Marijuana Initiative, and Mr. John Jones is on the phone, Mr. Orlando Traynor is on the phone, and then Mr. Howard Gunn. Mr. Howard Gunn worked with the legislation in Florida with their medical marijuana license to ensure that Black farmers were able to receive a license. So Mr. Gunn, do you mind explaining where we are, what you have been able to find in your research about Mississippi?
Well, actually, this is Mrs. Gunn. Mr. Gunn just stepped away for a brief moment, but I can share what we know so far that he and I have both worked on. At this time, it is the Department of Health in the state of Mississippi that's going to be responsible for creating the rules and regulations related to anything in the medical marijuana arena. And they do have until midsummer to come up with those rules. And those rules will have to be influenced by groups like the Mississippi Minority Farmers Association and other minority groups who are advocating, who are also, you almost have to have a lobbyist to make sure that they hear what your concerns are. And those concerns are transferred over to the Department of Health. So at this time, it really is in the hands of advocates and lobbyists to get the concerns of the minority community heard and written into regulation and law.
Thank you, Ms. Gunn. And Mr. Orlando Traynor, do you have anything to add to that?
Let me unmute and start my vehicle. Start my video. I'm in Scruggs here. Basically, Mr. McCain, what we'll probably need is get your information. We're in the process of putting together some webinar series. We have a partner group that's out of Georgia that's actually growing the hemp for hemp purposes and also for medical marijuana and even for recreational purposes. And so I had a conversation yesterday with AgriUnity, a group out of Georgia, and we're looking at putting together a series sometime early 2021 with an individual who has an extensive background in the hemp and medical marijuana growing process, because it's a lot more involved in it than what people think. A lot of people think, well, hey, there's an opportunity for me to make some money and do this and whatever, but there's a lot of due diligence that goes into it as it relates to understanding the process, the business, having the right soil, and doing a lot of the legwork that needs to go on. So if you stay connected with us, then once we get those training sessions set up, we'll make sure that we keep you informed so you can participate and you can get all the information you need as it relates to what we're going to do, what's going to happen here in Mississippi. Now, where you live now, you all may be doing it a little bit differently, but everybody, some in Mississippi are excited about it, but we're just trying to make sure that people understand that it's more than just a free fall, and it's more than just a way to make some money quick. There's a lot of responsibility, there's a lot of investment, and if you want to be successful and build something over the long term, like Dr. Spade was referring to, then you need to make sure you do the foundational due diligence. So when you step out there, you can step out there not only for yourself, but step out there for those that will come behind you that will have an interest on continuing that legacy. So just stay tuned, and we'll keep you posted.
All right, I will send can you give me an email address and a telephone number that I can kind of reach someone, please?
Yes, sir. What I'll do, I'll put that in the chat box right quick.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Jones, for your comments, and Mr. Traynor and Ms. Gunn, everyone that gave feedback on Mr. McCain's question. Now we're going to move to Ms. L. Marie Brooks. Ms. L. Marie, you can unmute yourself and ask your question. Ms. L. Marie Brooks.
Thank you, Dr. Miles. I was concerned, you talked a lot about, the heirs property and how, and I hear it on a lot of different calls, how that property is lost because of disagreements within the family. And when, say for an example, I can listen to those messages, but if people in the family does not hear that importance, how can you win a person to just at least let's discuss it and let's talk about how we can work together on paying the taxes and retaining this property in our family so it won't be lost, as some of our past generational properties have been lost to big corporations and to other races. I mean, what are some things would you suggest to pull a family together to even start a discussion because of bad blood in the past?
Mrs. Brooks, this is Dr.
Yeah.
Spade. So if I just may offer just a little bit, I understand exactly what you're saying. Sometimes it's hard to get everybody on the same page, especially when there's issues and, you know, unresolved issues. What I would say is to, you know, put forth the effort of maybe bringing in someone to be a mediator that can, you know, converse and meet everybody where they are, because everybody has, most of the time, you know, is issues of, you know, what can I benefit out of it? Or, you know, people are thinking about their own interests. And so if you bring in someone to, you know, to start the conversation, you know, just to at least, you know, get people to the table where their issues can be addressed, or find out ultimately what it is that they want. You know, some people will walk away from property. Some people, you know, want the money. Some people, you know, it's just so many different variables. So if you could find, you know, a party that can come in that has no attachment or connection to it, but that just is there to help with the conflict resolution piece and deal with, you know, each individual according to who they are, get information about, you know, what their perspective is, you know, and then that can convey the bigger picture to them, you know, to kind of soften the blow. Because, you know, when you're familiar with people and people are familiar with you, a lot of times they don't want to hear nothing that you have to say. So if you're a sibling or you're someone that's in the situation, you know, people, they just sometimes are closed to that discussion. However, if you bring in someone that is, I don't want to say a stranger, but yeah, in essence, that, you know, someone that has no stake in what it is that's going on with the property, you may be able to get further with that, to at least get people to understand, you know, this is about a bigger picture than just what you want. And so we have to try to figure out how to work together so that we can make sure that our legacy is secure. Because, you know, having individual issues, you know, you're holding up the whole train for those that are coming behind us. So we got to get this resolved. And so that's what I would suggest.
Thank you.
You're very, very welcome.
All right, thank you, Ms. El Marie, for that question. And thank you, Dr. Spade, for your comments. At this time, Dr. DeVita, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. She had some comments in the chat. I couldn't catch it all, Dr. DeVita. So could you unmute yourself and speak at this time, please?
Sure. I was saying that the irony is that I grew up on a small farm in Michigan, and but I've always come to the city of Chicago during the summertime, when most all the other Black folks I knew were going south for the summer. And until now, I still feel some level of disconnect, because I don't have that connection. I feel like there's a void because I don't have a connection to land in the South. Even though when I'm talking to people about farmland and things, the first thing they think is the South. And when I say I grew up on a farm, the first thing they think is the South. Fast forward, what I ended up doing was, as I got older, I bought land in the rural part of Illinois. And the New York Times has written about it. They call it the town that Illinois forgot, because there were a lot of Black farmers out there that were losing their property. because their younger generations no longer wanted to farm or take care of the property. So a lot of it went up for tax sales. Anyway, the other thing that I found interesting after I bought there, I learned that a lot of the Black farmers there were farmers who were tricked. They owned land in the South, but they were tricked to come north and promised this new life in the north, and there was farmland here in Illinois, but the land here did not equate to the land that they owned there in the South. So it was the land here was perceived to be unfarmable. But after Black farmers from the South were tricked into giving up their land in the South and coming here, they realized that a lot of this land was a lot of sand, but they still found a way to cultivate the land to make it so that they could farm on it, which is a story that I think is not told enough about what it is that we have within us. When they talk about taking lemons and making lemonade, when I think about that story and how Black farmers farmed that land in Pembroke, Illinois, and if you go there, you pick it up, it feels like nothing but sand. But there's an amazing backstory to that land. I own land there now, but somehow I still feel some disconnect because I don't own land in the South. And unfortunately, some of my colleagues that I've worked with that owned land in the South, that I had talked about for years about me wanting to own a piece of land in the South, they've all died off, and they did not put their affairs in order. And that saddens me. So, the biggest thing I'm just hoping that everybody takes out of this message is that we get our affairs in order. As soon as we went into this pandemic, I just said, there's nothing else that anybody should be thinking about but putting their stuff in order. And I don't care what the age is. I don't care what you own or feel that you own. If it's a pair of shoes, put your affairs in order, because none of us are promised tomorrow. And we fight too hard to get what little bit we have. And I can tell you, thank you, Dr. Saacha, I can tell you that there is a concerted effort, because I work for government. I work in business development all day long. I come home every day traumatized, looking at how this effort it is systemic, and it is a way of life for other people to keep us in an oppressed state. And then if we understood how serious it is, and how this is the everyday life, people get paid to do this. And so we will get our stuff in order. And the other part of it is with trying to work with, because the property that I grew up on in Michigan is now heirs property, because my grandparents passed on. All 6 of their daughters are gone now. So you've got all these grandchildren, great-grandchildren, where nobody has ownership of anything. But I always kept an eye on the property, because at one point, nobody was paying the taxes. So I was just paying the taxes. And I had to step away from that until one of my relatives ended up living on the property because they got evicted out of Chicago. And so, but that heirs property, that gets tough. But I think what we have to do is begin to define who is your family and who is your relative. And because that's important, making that distinction. Who is your family and who is your relative? And those that you can identify as your family, I think you should begin to talk to first. Maybe they will, within their circle of influence, they can begin to talk to those who you can identify as just a relative. I don't know, but this conversation has been so healthy for me, and my daughter's on the call too, because she needed to hear from other people besides me, because I'm just Ma having this conversation. But I told her this morning, you get on this Zoom call. If there's nothing else I could do, I'm making her get on this Zoom call, and she's been texting me ever since. Thank you. Thank you, Vicky. I really appreciate it. You know, and Vicky, your spirit is invaluable, because all I did was made a telephone call to you, you know, from somebody to somebody else I know, because they're coming for some property that I gave to my daughter. You know, and I didn't know which way to turn. And just having a conversation. We got to talk to people. We got to talk to each other. You know, I don't have no more than you. And as you said, Dr. Saacha, we don't own nothing. I always tell people, acquisition is the easy part. Can you maintain? Is a true test of your character. Can you maintain? People get stuff all the time, but they lose it just as quickly because they don't know how to maintain. We don't own anything. I'm done.
Doc, if I can just jump in right quick and dovetail on what you just said. You know, you kind of hit the nail on the ball head, as we say down south. One of the books that really truly changed my life, and if no one has ever read this book, please go and get your $7 and go buy it. And that's the autobiography of Malcolm X. As a matter of fact, the autobiography of Malcolm X was named by Time magazine as the top 10 most influential book of the 20th century. I mean, imagine all the books that came out from 1900 to 1999, and Time magazine named the autobiography of Malcolm X the top 10 most influential nonfiction book of the 20th century. And I will quote what Malcolm said, and I think the good Dr. Spade kind of touched on it. In that autobiography, Malcolm tells this joke that was told by Barry Goldwater, who was a 1964 Republican candidate who was running against Lyndon B. Johnson. And Barry Goldwater tells this joke, and he said it was a white man, a black man, and a Jew. And they all had one wish each. The white man wished for security, stocks and bonds. The brother wished for a whole bunch of money, and that Jewish man wished for some imitation jewelry and that colored boy's address. And we are still falling for the okie doke. We are falling for the fake jewelry. And when we think about land, and when you talked about being down south, again, I'm gonna go back to Malcolm. Stop talking about the South. Anytime you're south of the Canadian border, you are south. Malcolm said the only difference between the white man that hangs you down south and the one that hangs you up north is his accent. Many people don't realize that Martin Luther King Jr. lived on the west side of Chicago 2 years before he was physically assassinated. And I understand, and I underscore physically assassinated, because you can shoot, but you cannot kill ideas. You can kill the dreamer, but it does not kill the dream. And when Martin Luther King lived in Chicago and organized in Cicero, he said, I've never seen such racism as I've seen up north. So stop talking about the South. Anytime you're south of the Canadian border, you're south. I tease people all the time. Even Ulysses S. Grant, who was the Union general for the Union Army, owned slaves. Go to Google and you'll find it.
Okay, thank you for that healthy conversation. And Dr. DeVita, just putting in perspective what Dr. Spade said, we don't own anything. And put your stuff in order, and you cannot afford not to protect yourself. Ms. Vicky, come at this time.
Yes, I was just going to say, hey, DeVita, just so glad that you joined us on this call. I received a phone call from DeVita last week. She has some property where she has some illegal dumping going on. And so we talk about heirs property. We always think about what the residual we're going to get from this. But there's another case of some of my relatives, Billy, I posted their video on your website. One of the reasons why the mother was so insistent to get a trust done is because she has heirs property in Texas with illegal dumping, where I'm not sure, DeVita, whether it was tires that they dumped on this property or whatever. So those are the type of things that we have got to start having these conversations. Saacha, DeVita was referred to us from Stephen LeBroy. And while we were on the phone she was telling me her issues that she has going on in Kankakee with illegal dumping on her property. We were able to put her on the phone with Nick, a civil engineer that was able to help her. And her daughter was a little bit upset that we didn't get her on the phone call. So hopefully she'll give us a little bit of grace today that she's here. So, but again, we have just got to have these conversations and connect people with the resources that can help them out. Because, Davita and her daughter were receiving phone calls from EPA about illegal dumping. So there are, we want to make sure we leave the property in our future generations. We're leaving it in a good place and not where it's, a liability for someone. So just kind of connected the dots, how all of this matters with everybody. So thanks.
Okay, thank you for those comments, Vicki. And I'm reminded what Dr. Spade just said. We are everybody on this call, we are the Moses of our family. And remember that, I take that to heart. We are the Moses of our family, to keep things respectful, to keep things moving and move the family forward, that they don't get left behind. Okay? Are there any more questions? I don't see any more hands up. I don't see anything inside the chat. Are there any more pressing questions or comments from anyone that's on this Zoom meeting? Yes, please, Mr. Jones.
Dr. Miles, John Jones.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Mr. Jones.
Yes.
Can you hear me, Mr. Jones?
I'd like to say I enjoyed the presentation by Dr. Spade, and everyone that's on here is very powerful, but I also want to make those in other states, or even in Mississippi, make them aware that they have a tremendous resource that they can tune into, and that's our 1890 land grant institution that provide valuable information, resources, education experiences, not only to adults, but to students also. And whether you're living in Michigan, Illinois, Missouri, just go on the, just Google 1890 Land Grant Institution. There are 19 of them across the nation. And I just think that they can be a tremendous resource of information, education, and knowledge for people that's on here.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Jones, for the comment about the 18.
And I graduated from the best one, that's Alcorn State University. Thank you.
Absolutely, Mr. Jones. I knew you weren't going to get off the call if you say something about the Alcorn State University, the best 1890 in the world. I agree with you. I agree with you wholeheartedly. Because I am a 22-year, I've been working at Alcorn now for 22 years, over 2 centuries. I received my master's from there. Been in ag over 22 years. So I have a great love for Alcorn State University and the 1890. So thank you, Mr. Jones, for that comment. We appreciate it so much. Mr. McCain, you had a comment, Mr. McCain? Okay. Ms. Jones, you want to comment this time, Ms. Jones? If there's no more questions or comments, this has been so powerful. It's divine time. Everyone on the call, this was divine purpose and divine time for you. Okay. Ms. Jones, Ms. Carolyn.
Dr. Miles. Yes, Dr. Miles, thank you. Thank you so much. Dr. Spade, Vicki, all of the participants on the call, thank you so much. And Dr. Spade, you can see from the comments today that this will definitely not be the last one. We thank you so much for your insight, and we are just thrilled to have you with us today. Thank you all so much. And remember, let's all work to help each other. Vicki, we will be in touch. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And Dr. Miles, again, thank you. Thank you everyone that's on the call. Be blessed and have a blessed holiday.
Thank you so much, Ms. Jones. Thank you so very much. Are there any announcements that someone may have before we adjourn? Any announcement at the bottom of the agenda, say announcement before we adjourn? Anybody? I saw, Vicki, you put inside the chat about the Federation of Southern Cooperatives air property. You want to say something about that before we get off, Ms. Vicki?
Yeah.
Put a phone number there.
Yeah, the message from the lady, she was asking about heirs property and a mediation. I just recently, along with Revelyn, we attended the National Heirs Property Conference in Atlanta last week, and they have great resources, and they have like a workbook, and it's a 12-month workbook to help families with the communication. It probably has some form letters and some suggestions, but it's a great tool. And I can actually, I don't mind forwarding that workbook to, that was, what was it, Miss Elmira? Who was that? That left that
Miss
message?
El Marie.
El Marie.
Yeah, Miss El Marie Brooks. Mhm.
Okay.
I'll make sure I give you her
Okay,
information.
and
I have
I'll
it.
definitely,
Her
because I
email
think
address.
it'd be a great resource for her as well as far as communicating with her family members.
I'll make sure I connect with you after this call, Vicki. I'll connect with you. Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Billy Lawton, I see your hand is raised. I don't want to not acknowledge you. Billy Lawton, you can unmute yourself, Billy. I see his hand raised. Mr. Billy Lawton, you have a comment?
You know, evidently I did that by mistake. I've appreciated all the information that I've gained from the call. I take every opportunity that I can to attend these Zoom seminars or seminars dealing with heirs property, because that's one of the major problems that we have in Texas. So I appreciate, Vicki, you inviting me to come on, and I appreciate Dr. Spade, the information that you gave us this afternoon rather. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lawton. Thank you so much. And Ms. Vicki, we have Ms. Nadine Randall. She also want a copy of the workbook. So I will make sure I give you Ms. El Marie and Ms. Randall information to give them the workbook. Okay. Dr. Spade, it's been a blessing. Thank you, Dr. Spade. Thank you, Ms. Vicki. Thank you, Mr. Gunn, for giving those warm words of prayer this morning. And thank you, Ms. Reverend Coleman, and everyone that's on the Zoom meeting today. It was my pleasure and my honor to be the facilitator for this phenomenal Let's Talk Farmer to Farmer session on today. I always love being around family and not relatives. I like that. Family is not relatives. I'm going to use that. I like that. I like that. Being around family and not relatives. And also, I like what you said, Dr. Spade. When you get rejected, that's for direction. So I have a lot of nuggets to add to my book of nuggets I have. And Mr. Birch, you know, I have a lot of those. But this has been truly a blessing to add to what I'm doing at Alcorn and to move our family forward. And the COVID-19 put some things in perspective. It really did. Whether you look at it or not, it really put some things in perspective for us as a whole. So I want to end by saying thank you all so much for your time. You gotta have a blessed and safe holiday. And the best thing you can do for the holiday is get your family correct. Get them straight for the holiday. And that's what I'm gonna do. All the turkey and all that kind of stuff, that's okay. But get your family straight during the holiday, okay? Dr. Spade, blessings upon you. That's a gift, exactly. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, that's all we have for today. I see two hands. I don't want to make sure I don't want to omit anyone. Miss El Marie, I see your hand. Are you trying to say anything, Miss El Marie and Mr. Fountain, before I get out? Miss El Marie,
I just wanted the young lady to know I did attend that heirs conference. I do have the workbook, and I asked that question wherever I go, because I started the mediation, and the young lady that called my brother, he went off on her, and she called me back and said, I can't deal with him. So I guess I'm still dealing with that. But anyway, I have the workbook, so that's, you don't have to send it to the other young lady. I appreciate it though.
Okay, Miss El Marie, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Mr. Fountain, are you saying some final remarks, Mr. Herman Fountain? Okay, Mr. Fountain, maybe he hit it by mistake. Okay. All right, thank you, Ms. Carolyn Jones, for allowing me to be your facilitator, and thanks you to everyone that was on the call today. And you all have a blessed evening. And thank you all so much.
Thank you again, Dr. Miles. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Yeah, do you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, we was getting ready to cut you off, Mr. Fountain. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Herman. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
I'm new on this thing, ma'am, and I had my mic mute.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem. What I'm trying to find out, I've had a patent for about 25 or 30 years on a barbecue grill, and I've been trying to get this thing to the market for years, and I need some information on somebody can help me to market a patented barbecue grill.
Is there anyone on the call that can help Mr. Herman patent his barbecue grill?
Yes, I
Not
can.
patent.
I can help him with getting some direction. So if you could get his contact information for me, then I will definitely be in contact with him to assist him with that.
Wow.
There's a group here in Chicago too that helps Black inventors get their patents.
Well, I got the patent. I need to get it to market.
Oh, okay.
I need to get it to market.
Okay.
Okay, so Mr. Herman, can you give me your phone number right quick? Can you give your number out so Dr. Spade can call you?
Yes, ma'am. 662-418-1243. And I can also be texted at that number.
All right, 662-418-1243.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right.
Okay, Mr. Fountain, I have you.
I'm sorry.
No, I have your number, and I will reach out to you directly so we can discuss some possibilities for you. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. And you talk my language, Miss Spade. You talk. That's why I appreciate that. That's why I had to come back and let you know that. And,
Thank you so very much, sir.
you
I truly appreciate it.
Dr. Mr. Todd McCain talk my language too. He talked Malcolm X. People of the world now see everybody wants something, but they want to push somebody else up to do it. I mean, ain't nothing gonna come to you. You got to fight for what you want.
Yep, sir.
I mean, so I'm with both of y'all. I mean, I'm from the old school. I don't believe in folding my hand marching. I believe in when I go out there, I believe I'm going out there for action.
That's
so
right.
I lay dead. I lay dead because I'm a sore loser. I don't like to play games, doggone it. I like to, when I go at something, I like to get it.
That's right.
Yes, yes,
sir.
yes.
Yes, sir. Thank you,
So,
Mr.
I mean,
Herman.
I appreciate
Thank you so
y'all
much.
and everybody. I appreciate everybody. And I'm new on this thing. Mr. Trainer, Orlando Trainer. Well, I saw him on Facebook with the information for this particular day on Saturday at 1 o'clock. So I downloaded the app and logged in. So that's how I got to be on this situation.
Okay.
Very
Good
glad
job,
that
Mr.
you were
Herman. You did
able to
well.
come in.
You did well with you did well. Yes. Okay. All right. You all
So
take care. Thank you so much.
I'm through. I'm through.
Yes, sir. All right. Thank you all. We signing off. You all take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye.